Yes, okay. So without further ado, then I'd like to introduce our wonderful guest today, the Reverend Bill McDonald. He is an American author, a mystic, an international speaker, an international spiritual motivational speaker. He's an award-winning poet. He's a film advisor, a minister, an artist, and a Vietnam War veteran. This is a gentleman of many, many talents. I remember I was attending in person the IONS 2019 conference in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. That was my very first IONS conference. And he was a speaker, and I was absolutely blown away. And I thought, I have to write this gentleman's name down, and I have to track him down, and I have to invite him to my group at some point. Sorry it's taken such a long time, but finally I did track him down, and he was very gracious and agreed to speak to us, and he's here today. So it's with great pleasure that we welcome you. I don't want to take up any more time. Reverend Bill, just go ahead and tell us your wonderful story. You're a 3-time near-death experiencer, but you're many, 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 many things. So it's all yours.
Well, first off, I'm in that quiet period of my life, meaning in the last 3 months, I've written 3 books, but I've been home. I've been on the road for the last 9 months. 10 months. I've been in India. I've been in the Hawaiian Islands. I've been all over Europe, Switzerland and every place else. And then I went home and I needed to recharge. And that's where I wrote my last 3 books, which are coming out right after Thanksgiving. So I'm going to talk today about a couple things. One, I'm going to talk about, since it's a near-death experience group, I'm going to talk about my first near-death experience. I've had 3. They're totally different. And even my first one is totally different than any I've heard from anyone else. Normally, you have a near-death experience, you pass over, there's this life review, you look back, see what you did right, wrong, how you affected other people. But in my case, I was 8 years old when I had my near-death experience. There wasn't much to review, but I had a preview rolling forward, and I didn't know it at the time, but it turned out to be a period of 5 decades, 50 years. And 50 years to the day of that first near-death experience, I was in India, and at the end of my predictions, and I was up visiting Babaji's cave, the sacred cave in the Himalayas, and I fell off a 30-foot cliff, had a heart attack, was dead on a rock, was revived by a cobra snake crawling over me. But that's another whole story. But it was 50 years to the date of my first one, which I thought was kind of interesting because that life preview I had only went to me going to India, going to the sacred cave. Coming back from that cave, I died and had another experience. So it was like from one lifetime to the next lifetime, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I was 8 years old. I was deathly ill. I had Bright's disease of the kidneys. There's a new name for that now, but Bright's disease is real bad kidney disease. And at the time, early 1950s, it wasn't curable. And I was in the hospital 1 year. But my first night, which was my first night away from home, from my parents, from family, I was put into an isolation ward. I had some procedure done on me, and they put me in bed, turned the lights off, and left me alone. And that night, I expired. I apparently died and transitioned. I was laying in bed. The room was totally black. And then my body felt light. And when I say light, it's 2 different meanings here. It felt light, like L-I-G-H-T, like turning the lights on. And it also felt light, like featherweight, like no weight. And the room kept getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I felt like I was actually illuminated. And I found myself suspended outside of my body. I remember, and it's strange because you're not in a body, so I don't have eyes. I tell people, well, I'm looking down, I see my body, but I'm not looking. I'm sensing downwards, right? I'm aware that my fragile little 8-year-old body is laying on the bed below me. And remember thinking, thank God I'm not that body. That's a painful looking body there. But it wasn't me. It was like I was the me. Even at 8 years old, I knew I was this ongoing sense of consciousness. And there was no period where I wasn't me. It wasn't like, boom, there's a blackout and all of a sudden you wake up on the other side. No, it was just a raising of the curtains. And here I am outside of my body and looking down at that. And it got brighter and brighter and brighter, almost like I was in cloud formation. It was like for those that have flown, you fly through clouds. I was in the flying helicopters in Vietnam. I remember we'd have the doors off the helicopter and we'd be flying through the clouds, and the clouds are right in, it felt just like flying in the clouds. And I meant that literally, because when I've done that, it's like, there you were. And there was no fear. There was no pain, obviously. Very joyful, blissful is probably a better word than joy. And then there was this sense of being loved. Not just love, but imagine, because I had an Italian grandmother, so pick whatever nationality you want. But Italian grandmas, when they love you and they pinch your cheeks and they hug you, there's a certain feeling. Imagine 1 million Italian grandmothers grabbing you and hugging you, right? So it was that feeling of just being embraced. Now I'm embraced in this light, this love, but it's physical. Even though I don't have a body, it feels truly like an embrace. None of this is on the physical level. It's all on a conscious level. And I remember looking at this white like clouds, and I'm watching scenes like watching a movie, like watching television, except back then television was black and white, and this was in living color or dead color in my case, right? There it was, all in color. And I'm seeing these scenes come at me, and I didn't fully understand them at the time. I mean, I saw the Kennedy assassination, and this is early 1950s. Kennedy, who knows who Kennedy was? Except some of these things I saw happen. But for example, I posted on a video what I saw in the Kennedy assassination, and Facebook came back and marked it with conspiracy stuff, because I said there was more than one person shot Kennedy. I was just relating what I saw in this vision, right? And then all of a sudden, if Facebook, who wasn't there, is telling me what I didn't see. So there you go. So you never know about those things. So I saw the Kennedy assassination. I knew it was a president of the United States. And then later on, when I was in high school, 3 weeks before the assassination, I told the principal and some of the teachers and people, I said, the president, he's going to Texas. He's going to get killed in Dallas, Texas. And everybody thought I was crazy. And now if I'd say that, they probably had the Secret Service visiting me, and they'd be questioning me what I knew, when I knew it, how'd I know? But back then it was like, what? And then when it happened, of course, everybody got quiet and weird. But I also saw the person I was going to marry, and I saw her young and I saw her older. And I met her in high school and we dated, and I knew I was going to marry her. And anyway, we're still married. Decades later, we're still married. But I saw my children, saw the jobs I was going to work at. I saw myself in a war. I didn't know it was a Vietnam War. There was no Vietnam War going on in the year I was doing this. There was Indochina War with the French. But I didn't know anything about that going on. I was just a young kid. And I saw myself in these funny shaped helicopters that looked like, in my mind, like tadpoles, Huey helicopters. They got that tadpole look, the iconic look. I saw myself sitting behind a machine gun, and I saw these battle scenes coming out. And I saw the homes I was living in, the jobs I was going to take. I saw a lot of this stuff going forward. I saw things happening in the nation. And I didn't realize at the time that I was looking, as it turned out, 50 years in the future. And I mentioned this before we started to record, that 50 years to the day of this first near-death experience, I found myself in India, traveling to Babaji's cave in the Himalayan mountains. Coming back from the cave, which is as far as my visions took me, was going to India to go to this cave. That's as far as my visions ended there. And then coming back from that cave, I had a heart attack and fell off a 30-foot cliff onto a rock boulder down below in this gully. And I had a large cobra snake crawl on top of me, and it acted like a defibrillator. Clear! I guess I got excited, and I woke back up. But that's another story. So what happens, I had this experience. I don't know how long it was. When you're having visions like that, these things could be instantaneously, you could encapsulate them in seconds or minutes or long period of time. There is no time. For me to talk about everything that would happen would probably be 30 minutes. But in reality, how long it took, it could have been moments. But all I know is I had these things. And then I kept seeing these two numbers flipping around, a 29 and a 59. I had no clue what that meant. And at the time I thought, well, maybe I'm going to die at 29 and maybe I'm going to die at 59. I didn't know. But I came back with a sense that, because I saw my future, that there was some health issues and that I need to change my diet. And I became a vegetarian at 9 years old, and didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do drugs, took care of myself. So I figured I was trying to change a destiny I saw. And then when I finally left the hospital, by the way, I didn't talk to anybody about that experience. We're talking 1950s. You don't talk about that. And an 8-year-old kid, you're not going to share. There's nobody to share it with. My parents came around about 10 minutes once a week on a Sunday. So nobody saw me for long periods of time. I was by myself, no toys, no TV, no books, no school, no coloring books, no phones, no smartphones, no computer lab, nothing, not even a notebook, nothing, for 1 year laying in a hospital bed. Not allowed to walk around, not allowed to use the restroom, not allowed to go shower. Everything was bed rest. So that had a big imprint on my life going from that point forward. Some people would look at that and say, wow, what a terrible experience. That's really terrible. Away from your family. To me, I looked at it as an early experience of being an involuntary monk, because it was like my own cave, right? So nobody to talk to all day long. People come and give you a shot, give you some food. You wouldn't see anybody all day long. So I had all this free time. And I used to make up meditations, things that I would do that felt like a meditation. I had no clue where they came from. I thought I made them all up. And on my first trip to India, I discovered when I was up towards Nepal, I was in a camp of refugees for Tibetans coming, in from Tibet. There was all these monks there. And I met this monk who didn't speak English. I didn't speak Tibetan. And I spent 3 days with this guy. We never exchanged a word. And he taught me a couple of forms of meditation, just through gestures and things. Turns out he taught me exactly what I'd made up. And I'm saying, how's this guy know what I made up? So apparently what I was doing in my bed at 8 years old was what Tibetan monks have been doing for 1,000 years. It was like breathing air, and I'm visualizing it coming through the navel and up the spine and coming over the spiritual line, going down in this energy. All these things that I was imagining in my own mind, in my own heart, thinking it was just me goofing around. What coupled the meditation techniques I used later on, I found out were actual meditation techniques, which that's pretty coincidental. That's kind of hard to be accidental, but I thought that was interesting. And when I was in the hospital, prior to going to the hospital, My mother belonged to Self-Realization Fellowship. Some of these people watching this may be familiar with that. Paramahansa Yogananda was the organizer and the founder of that organization. He wrote a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. And one of the chapters in that book is called Babaji's Cave. It's about Babaji. And I remember having that read to me at 7, 8 years old. And I thought, I got to go to Babaji's Cave. I have to live to go to Babaji's Cave. And that's where I ended up 50 years. It took me 50 years from that hospital bed to get to Babaji's Cave. And then right after I got to Babaji's Cave, and I was almost 59 years old, remember the 29, 59, I thought, and then I died. And I thought, well, geez, I'm almost 59, I'm dead. And then, of course, I came back. I'm sorry, it was a spoiler alert. You know, I did come back. I didn't totally transpire. Anyway, so at 8 years old, it's hard to digest everything that happened, but I wasn't a very analytical person. It was like, okay, I had this experience. Okay, I saw the future. Okay, I know it's going to happen. Okay. But it wasn't like I wasn't having these experiences prior to having that near-death experience. I'd been meditating ever since my first memories, 2, 3 years old, doing my own meditations. I was exposed to Self-Realization Fellowship since 1946, so I had that philosophy. But I come in practicing my own stuff, doing it. I mean, I was doing things, crazy stuff like as a little 2, 3-year-old, I'd push my closed eyeballs together so they would focus on the spiritual eye. And when I pushed them together and I looked there, I could see this flash of colors and this round ball of light with a star in it. And I'm going, that's kind of cool, right? Well, if you do that, you'll find out you truly can see the spiritual eye. That's one method to do that. At 2 or 3 years old, I thought, oh, that's pretty good. So I started using my thumbs and fingers, and then I'd close my thumbs in my ears so I couldn't hear, and then I'd close my nostrils. I was trying all these things at 2, 3, 4 years old with no exposure to that at all. So I was having experience after experience after experience. So when I had the near-death experience, it wasn't like a big, exciting thing. It was just, okay, it was just another experience. Didn't get too excited about it, didn't talk about it. In fact, I think my first book, I barely mentioned that something happened. It's only lately that I've really talked about it. I realized, oh, I guess that's something that doesn't happen every day. Maybe that's something people would like to hear about. But when I got home from the hospital, I learned something while laying in that hospital bed for 1 year. We're talking about getting woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning when the shift changes, and then they turn the lights off at 9 o'clock at night. So you're laying there the entire day. I started practicing something that I did learn from the Self-Realization Fellowship, and that was what they call recharging exercises. These are these exercises that Yogananda developed where you tense and charge your body, you visualize energy and light coming through your top of the head is what I called it back then, through my top of my head, through all the chakras, right? And the energy was there, and that energy would help you to meditate. And I thought, well, if I'm getting all this energy, I'm actually charging my body spiritually as well. And I got this healing energy there. What can I do with that? So my first couple weeks home, and I'm still not in school, I hear my dog get out of the house. It was a poodle, got out of the house and ran out onto the street, and it got run over by a car going about 40 miles an hour. I hear this crash. I go out there, and the driver, I thought he was an old guy. Looking back, he was probably about 28 or 30, but he was an old guy, right? This old guy, he's crying. A man, first time I seen a man crying over an animal like that. But now that I'm older, I'm thinking, yeah, if you hit a dog, you'd probably be crying. That'd be very upsetting. So he was crying, and I went out and picked up the dog, and the guy's apologizing for killing my dog. Dog was laying there, his tongue's hanging out. There's blood coming out of the corners, both corners of his mouth, blood coming out both nostrils, blood coming out on the tear ducts, blood coming out of the ears, and it's kind of flattened on one side. Looked pretty gone. I picked up the dog, and it was just barely alive. I went into the house, and I sat down, and I realized that I just spent a year working on this energy technique. And in my mind, I knew energy heals. And on top of that, I knew the power of love heals. And if I love this dog, if I give this dog love, and then I infuse it with this energy from this yoga technique that I developed, that I can help my dog. And so when I put my hands on the dog and transferred this energy, it was like static electricity. It was like little shots of lightning coming off the fingertips. It was like, and the dog jumped up and started running all around the house and never took him to a vet. That was it. He was good. So I thought, and I was just 9 years old then, just turned 9. And I realized that there's power in love, and there's power in this yoga energy of visualization and energizing and power through the chakras. And when you combine love with the power of the chakras, you have healing. And that's when I first tried healing techniques at that age. And later on, I developed that going to Hawaii as a young man, working with the kahuna at 18 years old. And I learned more techniques. And when I went back to India, numerous trips, I learned more techniques. And then I've added and infused my own techniques that I've developed over the years. And now this last couple of years, I spent traveling around the world, teaching people how to self-heal and how to work with others. And very successfully, we've had actually things that would be called miracles happen at these events I'm doing, these workshops. I'll be doing one in Pasadena and one in Pacific Palisades coming up next weekend. I don't know if people are living in the Los Angeles area, but I'm doing these all over the world. I'll be back in Honolulu next year. I'll be in Tokyo, Japan next year, probably Singapore, and other places, Spain, Europe, Germany. So that was kind of the start of this thing. So let's go back to this near-death experience, because it kept unfolding, because I had these predictions. I talked about predicting the Kennedy assassination, and I made other people aware of that. But I also saw myself in war, which greatly helps you when you're going to war, when you've had visions of yourself in the war, but you've also had yourself visions being old after the war. So, oh, okay, we're going to make it through this dream. Not a big deal. We'll survive. Makes it a lot easier to be brave. And I had things happen to me there that were life-saving for myself and others. I knew which helicopters were going to crash, which were going to burn, who was going to get killed, who was going to get wounded. And I've learned real quickly by telling people these things in the military, nobody listens. You don't save anybody. And then when they happen, they kind of get threatened by your knowledge. But on one occasion, and this is something that happened because, I've gotten awards for Distinguished Flying Cross, Bronze Star, 14 Air Medals. I got Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry. I got 14 Air Medals. I got all this stuff, right? Purple, everything. The one thing I got no medals for, not even a thank you, was the bravest thing I ever did. And it also saved the lives of about 30-some children and a Catholic priest. And yet I didn't even get a thank you. So it turns out I was facing a court-martial for mutiny because I refused to fire my machine gun from the helicopter at what appeared to be a column of troops marching down this dirt jungle road. It looked like, black pajamas, looked like everybody was carrying weapons. And my pilot wanted me to shoot him, and I refused. I said, it's not what it seems. I've already seen this in my mind vision someplace, right? I knew that's not what it looks like. Because in all real life, it looked like bad guys, right? And I refused to fire. And he gave me a direct order and says, I'm getting direct order to fire. And if you don't, I'm going to have you court-martialed. I said, do whatever you're going to do. So he turns the helicopter around. So the other gunner on the other side of the Huey with a machine gun was given the same orders. And here's a guy that was brave because he was just going on my word. And he says, I've flown with McDonald for 6 months. And if McDonald says he has a feeling that's not what it is, I refuse to fire my gun. So then he was going to have us both court-martialed because anytime you have 2 or more soldiers refuse a direct order in combat, that's a charge of mutiny, which is punishable by a firing squad or life in jail, which means I was 20, 21 years old then. I'd still be in jail today. That was 1967. I'd still be in jail. So I finally convinced the commanding officer, the main pilot. I go, hey, Major. I said, no, fly down. If it's the bad guys, I'll shoot. I'll find out if it's the bad guys. If they shoot at me, I'll shoot back, right? So he finally flies down there, and it turns out it's a column of 30-something children coming from this little hamlet, not even a village, a hamlet in the jungle, being led by a Catholic priest, in a black robe and everything. And they got rakes and shovels and hoes. They're going to the community vegetable garden down the road, and they're marching down the road. Had I listened to following direct orders, which always reminds me of the Nazis, I'm following direct orders. I'm just following orders. Well, I don't buy that on anything. I don't care if you're in the military, if you're working for the government, if you're working for the police, whoever you're working for and you have authority, just because you're given a lawful order doesn't make it the moral, ethical, or the spiritually right decision to make. Sometimes you got to stand up. And I stood up with the possible penalty of being in jail the rest of my life. There's not a lot of people out there to be threatened with, you're going to be in jail the rest of your life, or firing squad was a possibility. That would say, okay, you're giving me an order. If this is not what it is, you're in trouble, not me. Had I fired, we're talking about an M60 machine gun, 750 rounds a minute, 7.62 millimeter bullets, are big bullets. There'd have been no survivors. I would have ripped them all up. That would have been the worst tragedy of the Vietnam War. Worse than my life, because it'd been all children. And had I not listened to myself. So I saved not only the pilot and my door gunner and myself, but I saved all those families and all that world hate and all that anger. One act of just saying, okay, I'll go along with it, that changed, believe it or not, changed the history of the moment. There's no small thing on this thing. It changed the history of that war, whether people want to recognize that or not. Had I done it, it'd been a whole different history. So there I was faced with something, but I had this memory from laying in that bed, having that near-death experience, this vague sense, I've been behind this machine gun before. No, I got to trust that vision. I got to trust this is not right. So that was 1967. And best decision I ever made. And I would say it was the hardest decision. No, it was an easy decision to make because I just go with my heart, yes or no. I just got this thing in me. It's a green light or red light. Go, stop, do, don't do. That's how I act. I don't do any analytical thinking on any decision I make in my life. If I'm going to go to Europe, I wake up from a dream. I go, I'm going to Europe. I'm going to be gone 50 days. I just go. If I'm going to Hawaii, I'm just going to Hawaii. I buy tickets. So my whole life has been one of, you could call it impulse. I call it GPS, directional spiritual pathway. In other words, if I'm supposed to do it, I know, I just do it. And so that's how I kind of led my life ever since I've been a child. All right, so let's go back to this. Remember I said 29, 59, those two numbers. I'm going to come back to that because it has a little feature, a little bent on that here. So 29, 59, at 29 years old, I was kind of wondering when I got there, I go, this is kind of spooky. But then I realized, well, if I'm supposed to die this year, I had something happen. It was kind of like I had a spiritual experience that was like a death, but it wasn't a near-death experience. It was a rainbow body experience where I'm out of my body and I'm having this journey where I'm in a rainbow, or that's another whole explanation. So that happened at 29. So I thought, well, maybe that was a spiritual death and a rebirth. And I also changed my diet because by that time by the time I'm 59, I got five decades of being a vegetarian, never doing drugs, no alcohol, never add salt to nothing, don't add sugar to nothing. I mean, I was clean, but it changed my health. So 50 years to the day, I end up at Babaji's cave. I dreamt and saw visions of me going to Babaji's cave when I was having a near-death experience at 8 years old. And so I got there, and there was a part of me when I was in the cave, because my heart was pounding, I was having a heart attack, and I was having a hard time breathing. And I thought, well, that was my one desire. When I was 8 years old in the hospital, my one desire was to get to here. I'm in India. I'm meeting the gurus. I'm meeting all these sages. I'm in the sacred cave. Maybe that's all there is. So I'm coming back, and I'm standing on this 30-foot cliff, and my heart just boom, like bursts. And I black out. I find myself tumbling down a 30-foot cliff. And thank God it wasn't straight down. It was like angled. It had kind of like a 3-foot shelf, about 15 feet down. So I landed on that, and then I bounced from that down to the bottom. So I had 1 or 2 bounces before I hit the rock. And I'm laying on this rock looking up at the sky. And I'm not breathing. I'm in no pain. There's no heartbeat. And I go, oh, I've been in this situation before. I've been there. I've done that. And I realized this sense of floating, because all of a sudden I can see my buddy standing on the cliff that I fell off of, which is 30 feet up, and I'm looking at him. Of course, he don't see me. I go, hey, I realize, oh, there's my body down there. My body's all twisted laying on this rock. And I'm just enjoying this embrace once again. Embraced literally by the light. No visions, no voices, just a love. Just a love. And I felt wonderful. And it was like, well, okay, I've been to Babaji's cave. I've gotten my heart's delight. This is good. I'm ready to go. and I'm looking down and I see this. Well, my wife would probably correct me if she was here. I keep saying this very large snake. I think the first time I told this snake story of this cobra, it was only 7 foot. And then I think the last time I told this story, it was a king cobra. It was 15 feet or 16 feet. I have no idea how big this snake was, but if you ever had a cobra crawl across your body, it's big. I mean, it's big. Every time you tell a story, it's big in your mind. It gets bigger as it grows. It grows every time I tell the story. So I don't know, maybe it's 20 feet by now. But anyway, there's this cobra crawling across my feet, my calves. And I'm not afraid. I get excited. Like, I love this snake. This cobra snake. I love this snake. And I want to just hold it and touch it. And all of a sudden, it was like the snake functioned like, those paddles that the medics use? What do you got? Defibrillators, right? Clear. It was like, clear. Boom. And I just jumped up from the rock, took a breath, and I'm standing up. My heart is beating, and the snake is just right at my feet. And I'm grabbing onto this thing. Now I'm grabbing onto it like this, and my fingers can't touch. Fingers and thumbs can't touch. I'm grabbing the snake like this, and it's slithering through, and its body was continuous where my hands weren't. So it was, I don't know how big it was, but that's how big around it was, and it keeps slipping through my hands. It's coming out of the grass. It's going through my hands, and it's going in some tall grass. So all I'm seeing is this little piece at a time, right? And I keep chasing it. I got sandals on, bare feet, right? And I'm chasing it through this tall grass. All I do is turn around and go, bite me, right? And it slithers into this little trickle of a waterfall. It wasn't much of a waterfall. It was like about 8 or 9 feet tall. And just a trickle of water coming down. There was a little cavern behind the water. And it crawled up behind there and curled, and then did this thing with the hood, with the tongue coming out, right? Like that. And And I just stared at it. I loved that snake. It was just, the snake saved my life. And it was this, I mean, I wasn't trying to catch it to kill it. I was trying to catch it to hold it, embrace it. And my friend is going crazy. He's watching this on a 30-foot cliff, just going, my friend is nuts. He must have hit his head. He's just crazy, right? What are you doing? That's a real snake, Anyway, so 3 weeks later, I'm still traveling in India. Now, notice, being a guy, a woman had a heart attack, fell off a cliff. What's the first thing she's going to do when she gets back to safety? She's going to go to the doctor. She's going to go to get medical attention. She's going to go get checked out. A guy, well, I'm breathing now. Well, just let it go, right? Just keep moving on, right? So I just ignore it, right? So I'm traveling. I'm in the desert. I was riding a camel across the desert. There was three of us. There was 3 camels. And we come to this little town. We get out, and we stay at this hotel. And these Germans, they go, hey, you got to go to this place. It's on the edge of this town in the desert. We don't know what the name of it is. We call it Sacred Temple of the Monkeys or something. They were just making up a name. They had no clue. And they're trying to describe how to get to it. But it sounded like one of those Indiana Jones places, with the temples coming up in the canyon walls, kind of like Petra, right? With the carved into the walls. And I go, I got to go. So my driver goes, I don't know where that is. I said, well, look, they tried to give instructions how to get there, but he didn't know. I said, we'll find it. So we're driving all around the place, turn here. So I'm just going my intuition, turn. And we actually find the entrance to this place, which was insane because even my driver's is surprised. We get there and we hike up past all these beautiful temples. And about a mile up the top of the road, we see this open gazebo kind of temple. It's open all sides except for some pillars. And there's a guru guy up there. And locals call him the sun guru because he's worshiping up there in the sun and everything in Syria. And so I go up there and I see the guy from a distance. And we've already been hit in India. We've been there several months. Everybody's got a scam. They all want to sell you a prayer. They want you to pay for a blessing, all this stuff. I ain't going to do that, right? So we get up there, and this guru, when we were walking up the hill, he watched us, and he made 2 flower lays for us. And I get up there, and he's going to give them to me. I says, if you're selling them, I don't want them. I don't pay for blessings. And the guy just smiled. He put one on me and one on my friend. And I said, okay. I said, I'm paying you. So we're walking down the hill. And as I'm going down the hill, this little sadhu, this little guy with like a loincloth on, it was bare feet, maybe flip-flops. And he comes running over to me and he grabs my foot. American Babaji, which I didn't know at the time, but Babaji is just a term of endearment for an old person, a spiritual old person. So it's not like the Babaji, it's a title. And he kept saying I was his guru and he didn't want to leave me. And I said, so I spent a half hour with him. I showed him a meditation technique, told him, I said, if you really believe you're my guru, then first thing you got to learn is obedience. And he says, okay. I said, don't follow me. What? He said, don't follow me. I'm leaving, right? So I go down and we're going back down where the temple's at. And there's an older lady with this basket, wicker basket. And it's got 7 or 8 snakes in it, all cobras. And they're all, and she's got a piece of bamboo about that long stick. And she's banging this basket, making these things angry. So they're coming up, and their tongues are going and they're going up and down and they're angry. She's trying to get people to come over to see her cobras, charge money, right? And I get mad at her and I go running over there and I'm standing on top of her basket with my legs spread. My crotch is right over the basket. And I'm talking to her and yelling at her, waving my arms, using loud language, talking loudly and quickly, not softly, and waving everything you're not supposed to do around snakes, right? Snakes is, cautious. And these snakes are coming up between my legs and everything. And one crawls into my t-shirt and wraps around my stomach. I got about a 6-foot, 7-foot cobra wrapped around my stomach. And then the other one comes up, wraps around here, wraps around my neck 3 times, then comes out here, and all of a sudden its head's like that, and it's 2 fangs. I don't know if I saw 2 big fangs. There's probably fangs on the bottom as well, but I'm noticing there's 2 big fangs. And all of a sudden, when I'm turning around to look at him, I'm feeling my eyelash go, shh, shh. butterfly kiss from its tongue. So there I am, and my friend's going crazy. He's about 25 feet away because these things are spit. The cobra can spit. Well, they can spit venom. And we didn't know if she milked the venom out of them or what, but they weren't toothless. Because some people have them in a basket. There's no teeth. There was teeth on these, but I didn't know if they had venom or not. But that thought never occurred to me. I'm looking at this cobra, literally eyeball to eyeball. It's maybe 1 inch from my eyeball or less. I mean, it's right there. And when it opens its mouth, I'm looking down this tunnel, this cavern, this cave, this sacred darkness inside of it. And I'm just drawn into it. And I just keep staring at it. And now these voices are yelling at me and they just kind of fade out. I don't hear anybody's voices anymore. But it's just me and this cobra. And I'm mentally and spiritually inside it. I'm one with the cobra, inside it, in this dark place. It's like we're sharing that cave together. And I don't know how long it went on. My friend said 5 minutes. I don't know. It could have been longer or less. But it felt like love. And I was there because I didn't like the way this woman was handling this cobra, right? And a cobra just saved my life. I had this whole thing about cobras. I didn't understand the cobras back then, what they meant. I didn't realize they stood for Kundalini energy or the Shiva's connection or any of that. I just knew that there was love there, me and this cobra. And anyway, first of many cobra encounters. So that was my first near-death experience, second near-death experience. I finally get back several weeks later. I come home and I thought it was strange because I had a big bump. I had a big growth on my spiritual eye, kind of boom. I had a hard cyst there. All of a sudden, boom. So I go to the doctor and the doctor goes, "You got a bad case of cancer." I go, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, right there. You got cancer growing." I go, "You mean my spiritual eye?" She says, "Well, between your eyes." Yeah. I said, "Spiritual eye." She says, "But it's all cancerous." And I just felt, I go, wow. I go to India to find this guru that's going to save my soul, right? I'm looking for the answers. And I come back and all this negative crap, all this cancer, it's in my spiritual eye and it's going to be surgically removed. I mean, how poetic can you get, right? I'm thinking, yeah, let's cut it out, right? So I end up with 9 stitches, and they cut a big hole in there and everything. And I still haven't told the doctor about the fact that I had a heart attack and fell off a cliff. Just minor details. So finally, about a month and a half later, realized this is months after the initial heart attack. After collapsing 6 times in my house, I finally tell my wife, I said, I'm not feeling so good. I don't think I'm going to go to the doctor and check things out. So I drive myself to the ER. I don't know if you've ever driven to an ER, but unless you go into the ambulance ramp, trying to find a parking spot in an ER is pretty hard. So I park about a mile away. I walk back into the ER, into the regular room, stand in line. There's 18 people in line. And I finally get to the front of the line and they hand me a clipboard. They asked me one question. One question, Angie. That's all they asked me. Not what's wrong with you? Why are you here? You know what that one question was? Do you have insurance? I go, I care if I was dying, right? Do you have insurance? I go, yeah. Oh, okay. Fill out this clipboard, go sit over there, then get in that line over there. So after 18 minutes of the first line, I go fill out this thing, stand in a line with only about 8 people. I get up to there, and this lady reads it. And one of the questions on page number 3, not the first page, page 3, why are you here? After you give them the insurance number, your name, your address, contacts, page 3, why are you here? I put, I'm having a full-blown heart attack. That's what I wrote down on there. I'm having a heart attack. And she looks at it and she goes, yeah, okay, sure. She says, how'd you get here? And I said, I drove by 5-speed, truck, my pickup south. She said, where'd you park? I told her. She says, that's a mile away. I said, yeah, I know, but I'm having a heart attack. I've been having a heart attack the whole time. She goes, yeah, And you stood in that line? Yeah. And then you stood in this line? Yes. She sit down. She takes out her stethoscope. I'll be the judge of this. And she listens to my heart. Next thing you know, I feel like I'm in Kmart. Remember Kmart had that blue lights go on, blue light special? There's this light going on, and she's calling some code blue, code something, I don't know. Next thing you know, they're wheeling a gurney in, and all these people. And she goes, "Sir, you're having a heart attack." And just like I am right now, I go, "Yes, ma'am. That's why I told you I'm having a heart attack." "No, you're really having a heart attack." I said, "Yeah, I know. That's why I came in." She goes, "No, you're really having a heart attack." I go, "Yes." And so they wheel me in this gurney, and then the surgeon's in there, and they all want to operate and do all this stuff. And so then I did something I don't normally do. I complained because I'm one of these guys. Life is life. Whatever happens, it's okay, right? But I tell the doctor, I go, "Wait a minute." I said, "Doc, you saying I got clogged?" "Oh, yeah, this thing looks like it's probably 90, 100% clogged. I mean, there's nothing happening here. We got to do something right away." And I said, "I don't eat meat. I don't do salt. Don't do sugar. Don't do caffeine, don't do nicotine. I don't do booze. I don't do any drugs at all. I exercise, I meditate." And then he looks at me and he pulls out my medical records and everything. He goes, "Sir, had you not done all that, looking at your medical history, I would have thought you'd been dead by 29 instead of 59, which I was going to be the next couple of weeks." So the 29, 59, and I go, "Oh, had I not changed my diet," that's my first near-death experience, "I'd been dead at 29. Had I not changed my diet, I certainly would have been dead at 59. And so then I thought, whoa, because in 2 weeks I'll be 59. It ain't over yet, right? So I get my surgery. I'm getting all this stuff taken. And then one of my high school friends calls me and they go, "Oh, we're having this reunion, high school reunion. Is there anybody you'd like to see? That's going to come." I said, "Well, I got my old friend, Paul O'Brien, who was born on the same day as me, in the same city, in the same hospital in San Francisco." And I thought, if there's anything with astrology, we're only a couple hours apart. We're both Irish. He's Paul H. O'Brien Jr. I was William H. McDonald Jr. So there we were, two juniors, both Irish, both born the same day. Our mothers are roommates in the hospital. We're basket, but we didn't meet each other until we were in the fourth grade, 40 miles out of San Francisco, going to a school in Sunnyvale, where they got Yahoo and all that at. So we didn't meet each other until we were already fairly old, right? So I thought, oh, there's anything to astrology, because this guy wasn't a vegetarian. He straight meat, booze, cigarettes, drugs, gambling, didn't meditate. And so they go, "Well, I'm sorry, Bill, he's not going to be there." I go, "Why?" "He died." "Oh, he died before he was 59, right?" So then I'm thinking, there is something to astrology maybe, right? Because, we're both the same time, same place, and then he dies 59, right? So that was my first two near-death experiences, and life has kind of unfolded since then. And I have been doing a series in the last couple of years of going out for several months at a time, Czech Republic, Switzerland, England, Germany, wherever I want to go. I'm going to be going to Spain. I'll be going back to India, the Middle East, and probably going to go to Israel this next year. So there's a little less shooting going on, so my wife will be too worried. So I'm out there now teaching the things that I've learned in my life after almost 80 years. I don't want to leave this world without giving the gifts of things that I have spent a lifetime learning or brought into this lifetime already knowing. So what I'm doing now is I'm looking for people to train, to give healing information to. In the process, people are coming and having individual healings. It's happening. It's like miracles. People are canceling surgeries. I couldn't. This one lady in Hawaii, she couldn't move her arm. She was in an accident. 10 years, she couldn't move her arm. Couldn't reach. Had a healing session with me, and the next day she comes to the meeting. She's waving her arm around. 10 years, she couldn't do that. 10 years. But there's people that cancel surgeries, stop taking their pain meds, waking up from comas, fixing broken bones, fixing broken teeth, which we talk about later if we want to. But as I travel around the world, I realize that healing broken bodies is not why I'm here, because it's just a body. And if you live long enough and you take care of that body as well as you'd like to take care of the body, you're still going to drop dead. I mean, even Elvis died. Let's get real. So none of us are safe. So even if you're in the greatest of shape, you'll die someday and somebody's going to say, my God, he was in great shape. How'd he die? Natural causes. He died of natural causes. That's a natural way to go. You got to die, right? So healing of the body is not what I'm here for, although it happens and I teach that. But what I'm really looking for to people that are more concerned about spiritual and emotional healing. And I'm really most interested in those people that will take what I teach them and want to go deeper and want to learn how to do that themselves so they can be an extension of what I'm doing. And when I'm gone, what I've done is continuing. And so I just wrote a new book that comes out right after Thanksgiving called I Remember Tomorrow. Catchy title, but it has a lot of meanings. I remember tomorrow. At my age, I'm lucky to remember where I put the car keys. I can't remember yesterday, but I still remember tomorrow. And I know what's going to happen. And in this book, I talk about this healing journey and some of the stuff that happens and the fight over evil and light. There is a battle going on in the world, as we know. And so my job now is to spread light, to spread hope, to spread love, not to echo all the fears that are going on. Because right now, with the elections, and it's not just us, it's happening in Israel, it's happening in Russia, it's happening in Germany, it's happening in England. All the countries around the world, there's this conservative liberal fight going on. And the radicals on both ends of that, very few people in the middle that looking for common ground. And so there's this divide worldwide. And there's a divide between the rich and the poor, where you could have the eight richest people in the world have more income than 3 billion people, half the population, 3.5 billion people, 8 people have that much money that 3.5 billion people do. We're out of balance. Something's wrong. But I don't want to add to that. And I don't want to add people to worry about it, because you could spend your whole life trying to fix all these problems, try to fix the politics, try to fix the climate warming or this or that. You can have whatever cause you want. I'm happy for you. Do whatever you want to do. But in the end, unless you fixed you, you haven't really done much. Because whenever you're going to be born and reborn again into whatever reincarnated self you come back as, there's always going to be bad politics, bad politicians, wars, hatred, prejudice, causes, things. But if you invest in you becoming a frequency for love, a power for forgiveness, a hope for gratitude, if you can teach and instill these things in others, then in your own way, and maybe it's a small and immeasurable way, you've changed the world. Just like the butterfly wings flapping in Brazil causes a hurricane, 20 years later. All these theories, right? The butterfly theory. Well, it doesn't take many high frequency souls. Imagine a soul like a Buddha, a Jesus, a Krishna, somebody at that level. If you had a dozen of them operating in the world at some level, you're going to stop World War III. You're going to stop somebody from pushing the button on the atomic bombs. You ever wonder how we could go from World War II, where the most civilized country in the world, us, America, supposedly, the most compassionate, the most loving, dropped 2 atomic bombs on people, neither one a military target. And before that, which people forget about, we dropped napalm bombs, firebombed Tokyo, killing 100,000 people, burning to death 100,000 people prior to those 2 atomic bombs. And we are the good guys, so what's stopping this in my lifetime? I was born 1946. I was in the womb when those bombs were dropped. But there hasn't been another bomb detonated on people ever since. Why? Is that just chance? Because you got a lot of crazy players out there now. You got nations out there a lot of nations now have atomic bombs. What's stopping it? What's holding this whole thing together? And I'm telling you, it's the power and the frequency of love from this small, very pivotal, important group of souls out there that are holding this planet together. That's why people shouldn't give up hope. Don't worry yourself to death. Don't go crazy. Oh, the elections are coming. Everybody's going to crazy. Going to be crazy on both sides. Don't go there. People are going to need people that are stable. People are going to need people that are loving and forgiving. It's the only way we're going to make it. So that's what I'm doing around the world. And that's what my new book, I Remember Tomorrow, is about. And then I got 2 more books coming out within a week or 2 after that. One's a book of sacred verses. It's basically my poetry, but it's all spiritual stuff. And then the other one is a book of prayers and blessings, just because some people, they don't know how to pray and bless. Well, here's spiritual-based prayers and blessings with no dogma, no religion, just God and blessings and prayers. So I thought people need that place they can go where they can deliver prayers and blessings without being any particular religion, because that divides people. So my job is to stop dividing, find things in common, get people to join in a community, and to find common space for spiritual comfort. Meaning you have to learn to love, and to be with people. You don't have to like somebody. I got 2 rules. You got to love everybody because God is you. God's your enemy. God's your neighbor. God, it's all you. It's all God, right? So you got to love that. But nowhere along the line do you have to like anybody. Whole different thing. You got to love them, but you don't want to like somebody that's abused you, raped you, tried to kill you, does bad things. Well, they need to be in jail. You can love them in jail, but they need to be locked up. So loving people and liking people, 2 different things. Because if you love the first rule, which is love yourself, if you respect yourself and love yourself, then you don't let anybody abuse you or hurt you or damage you in any way. So therefore, you don't approve of that. You forgive, but you don't approve. You forgive, but you don't forget. That's protecting yourself. So that's what we're teaching. And I say we because I do have people out there now that are following my lead. I'm giving information out. I'm training people. I'm not copywriting any of that. Somebody wants to use my quotes. They want to take my teachings and spread them. Do it. I'm not going to be here. I mean, I figure I got about another 8, 9, 10 years to go at the most. I've had congestive heart failure now for 20-something years. That's a long time. And diabetes and all kinds of other diseases and things. And I'm past my prime. But here's what's interesting. 80 years, going on 80 here, in about 16, 17 months, about 80 years. Find a wrinkle on me. If you look at pictures of me 15, 20 years ago, I'm older. It's older. But even though I've been through multiple surgeries and stitches and all kinds of stuff, I've been practicing this self-healing. And part of my self-healing is self-love. And I put my hands on my face and I love myself. And I love my nose. And I love whatever part of my body is having problems. I found the power of self-love and self-forgiveness. Not only healing, it's regenerative. I'm actually getting younger. So it's great. And if I'm someplace and you're coming to one of my events someplace, ask to see some photos because I can show you, well, here I am, and I'm old looking, right? So It's not my imagination. But there's something about love, or maybe it's just that when you radiate love, maybe I just see myself younger. Maybe you see me younger because I'm radiating love. Maybe in reality, I'm this shriveled up old guy, like an apple, right? Who knows? But love, when you broadcast it, when you project it, when you give it, it not only heals you, but it radiates healing around you. So I tell people, be joyful, be loving. And it's not something that's just good for you, it's good for everybody. So don't be selfish and feel bad about life and complain. That's selfish. Be loving and joyous. That's your duty because you owe it to everybody else. So when you're receptive to whatever happens in your life, whatever happens, it's okay. What do you mean? Because people get all upset, right? Oh, I had a child die, I had this die, I had cancer. Everything that happens to you, you've manifested it at some level. Karma, thoughts, desires, prayers. You needed this in your life to be who you are. There's nothing comes in your life that you didn't in some way bring it about. It may be good things. Like, for example, I've been fighting cancer for a long time, and I've had over 300 some stitches in this face. This nose, the nose itself has been cut off 3 times, totally gone. Talking about big hole in the face. Forehead's been removed, top of the head removed, stitches. I mean, big, huge things coming underneath my eye sockets. All over, this thing has been ripped apart. I look like Frankenstein. And I'd have 300 stitches. I just put my hands on my face, and 3 weeks later, I'm almost looking like I'm looking now. 13, 14, 15 stitches or separate operations. And every one of them looking like Frankenstein. And I come out, always healed. Because I always inject it with love. I don't complain. Why me, Lord? I look at it and said, this is one of the best things that ever happened to me, is having all this bad cancer stuff happens, because I've had a chance to practice, learn, and now teach healing. And it's not theoretical. It's real. It works. And I can give you some examples of that. But, David Schultz, who just left a message, my buddy. Yeah, David Schultz in Germany. If he's listening, thank you. But he will attest. He's seen me. He's been with me. He's translated my books in German, by the way, if you want to buy my books in German. But he's also been there to witness several major things in my life, and he's watched miracles happen. So it's not just me rattling a cage and saying, take my word for it. I'm telling you, ask those people that go to my workshop. There's stuff going on out there. So I'm open to any questions anybody's got, or if you want me to tell a particular story, I can go any direction you want to go.
A couple of quick things. I would like to invite everybody to ask their questions. Those of you who want to stay anonymous, use the chat. Those of you who are happy being on camera, because this is being recorded for the future, please just go ahead and open your camera and raise your hand, and we'll get to you. Those of you who are here in person, there is a pad if you want to write your questions down and just hand them to me, or if you want to come to the mic and ask them yourself, that would be great. The people who've just joined us, come in late, if you'd like to give us your email information, Mike, if you could collect that email information so that we can then send you a full recording, because you have come in late to the session. I wouldn't want you to miss anything. But yes, indeed. I have lots of questions while we're waiting for other questions to come in. My first question is, you're training people in terms of your life experience, everything you've learned, the self-healing. I'm a therapist, a pastoral counselor. I work with people who are having some deep issues, and I bring a lot of the spirituality that you've been talking about into my practice. I'd like to grow that. Who are the people that you're training? Do you need any special qualifications?
Well, in Germany, David Schultz is one of the people I'm working on, but several people who are in healing practices now in California and some others. I'm looking for people that are self-nominated, that they have to have an interest in doing this, number one. I'm not looking for people that are my age. I'm sorry. If I'm going to invest in somebody, I want somebody's going to outlive me by ways. So I'm looking for people in their late 20s, but 30s, 40s, 50s, preferably, maybe early 60s, because they have years, decades where they can give back. So I'm looking for people that can generate frequency and energy, because I can teach people techniques, but the truth of the matter is I can do hands-on, or I could just eyeball you. I can heal from watching somebody, looking at somebody. I can also by doing it by sending. So it's not just the technique. I used that in the beginning, and now I've reached the point where I realize I don't need any technique. The technique is just love. And so I need people. Oh, David's here. So the technique is just about love. I see my friends there in Germany as well, 2 young ladies. And so, because people think they're a healer and they all want to heal, and it's a nice thing, it's a beautiful thing. But you've seen people that have taken a weekend class in Reiki, and next thing you know, they're master healer because they took a weekend study course. No, they're not a master of anything. And then you meet some people that really are, and there's a difference. The difference is frequency and vibration, the energy that they have, that they bring to this thing. So I need people that have some level of frequency already. There's things that affect your frequency. Meditation, of course, is going to make your frequency greater, your energy greater. So the more meditation, better. Things that you eat, if you have a diet that's, you're not out just slaughtering a bunch of animals and eating them and stuff like that. More fruits and vegetables, but a little fish, a little meat once in a while, but you don't go crazy on this thing. But the less meat you have, the better frequency. Just talking about not sins, what's right, what's wrong, not what's not healthy. Just saying for frequency of energy. Because when you eat an animal, then you get all the enzymes that were caused and all their hormones and all these things that were going through their blood vessels and their brains and their nerves when they were getting slaughtered. So you're getting all those feelings like at a slaughterhouse. Like, so if you're eating beef that was killed in a slaughterhouse, very bad for you. But if you went out with a hunter and a hunter killed this deer and prayed for the deer and it didn't hunt it for a trophy, but hunted it to feed himself and his family, that meat would be a more powerful energy than the stuff you'd buy in the store that, went to a slaughterhouse. So it's all about energy. And if you're doing drugs, legal or illegal, it doesn't matter. Drugs will affect your frequency. So if you're doing psychedelics and marijuana, great. It's still affecting your frequency. I'm sorry. You may think it's a beautiful thing, taking magic mushrooms or whatever, but all those things change your frequency and not for the better. You might have experiences. You'll have experiences, but it's not the same thing as love. It's a different it's a different trip. It's a different route. So we're talking about generating healing energy, healing frequency, but it comes from doing and not doing all the bad things like worrying and fear and anger and hate and all those negative emotions and the wrong food and booze and drugs and all that stuff. And it's doing the meditation, the compassion, the love, the giving, the service, having gratitude. But mostly all that can be overcome by the level of love that you have. You can balance a lot out with just pure love. Love is the highest frequency. And until you have love for you, for yourself, then you have no frequency to give. You have nothing to share.
That's with the self.
You can't forgive yourself. You can't love yourself. You're not helping anybody. So you got to start there. And most people, shame and guilt is holding us back. We've been shamed as a child. Maybe you were a bedwetter, or you were stupid, or your fathers didn't like you, or whatever it was, that something that happened in your life and you were shamed, right? That affects you. You gotta be really careful what you tell children. You're stupid. They never amount to anything. All these things work on your energy of the child. So as you grow up, therapists like yourself and others got to work with these people. You got to get them past that crap, where they realize that, no, God and I are one. God's got no shame. God's got no guilt. It's my delusion thinking I'm this separate ego. And that's what separates you. The more separation you have from the source, then the greater your delusion.
So would you exclude somebody who's a therapist in your?
No, not at all.
And then
I've given up looking for perfect human beings, number one. I started off very lofty thinking, well, I'm going to find other people that have fasted 40 days and 40 nights like I did, and people that went to a cave for weeks, and people that, meditated at ashrams for months. Well, I'd given up on that. Now I'm just going, do they meditate a few times a week? Do they have good intentions? Do they love themselves? But more importantly, are they willing to go forward with more love? Are they willing to improve? So I'm at that point. I'm accepting people where they're at, realizing that there's nobody perfect out there. So I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for people that believe in love. That's it. What do you believe in? Love. That's it.
So if there's anybody who's joining us today who would be interested in working with you and being trained, as it were, should they just contact you directly?
Yeah, they could go to my website, which will have, if you go to my website, it'll have a contact information there, but www.revbillmcdonald.com. But or they can actually go direct. They can send me an email. Huey, Huey 576 at gmail.com. Huey 576. That was my helicopter number, tail number. Huey 576. So easy.
Maybe I can actually type that in.
Or you can think of Huey Lewis in the news, right? The old group. Huey, Huy. Anyway, so
McDonald.com, that's your website. And I'll write your Gmail address there in the chat. We do have some questions. One is it possible to heal someone who has brain damage, who is negative and maybe possessed? If so, what would you suggest?
All right. First off, I'm teaching self-healing. Okay. There's a rare people out there that'll have the energy and the ability to help others. But ultimately, the person being healed has to be a part of the process. So it depends when you talk about brain damage, how much brain damage, how much of the process. There's nothing impossible. I brought 2 people out of comas. 2 people out of, actually 3, counting India. 3 people out of comas. I fixed broken teeth, 3 broken teeth. That's supposed to be impossible. You can't heal teeth. No healer heals teeth, right? So for me to say the word impossible, no. But for you to go around the world thinking you're going to help save the world and heal everybody, that's not why you're here. The main job is to heal you. And when I'm healing, even myself, I never ask God for healing. I just ask God for the wisdom to do the right things with my life and whatever that may be, and to live with whatever the consequences are. But what I found when I love myself seems to reciprocate, loves me back. It's like, I love my broken teeth. Well, you know what? They stopped being broken. I was supposed to have them pulled and have 3 root canals and 3 tooth pulled. And then when I went there, they didn't have to do that. So that was just 3 days after they had the examination and the x-rays, and I come in there and they go, oh, don't need it anymore. It's pure love. Pure love. So, because curing everybody in the world of every disease, they're still going to die, number one. And number two, people have things happen to them, and you have to have the wisdom to know this is their karma. If I lift this from them, how's that karma going to work it out? How's it going to work out? So sometimes I go to work on somebody and I've got a red light. Then I send them love for comfort, freedom from pain, help them transition, whatever. But I've had people pray for my grandmother. She's 97 years old and she's got stage 4 cancer and she's dying. Please, we don't want her to go. I go, give her a party, say goodbye. She's had a good life, 97 years. A lot of people don't make it that far. but people aren't ready for that message. Nobody's ready to say goodbye to anybody. It's really hard. But
I think what I'm hearing you say is if whatever the person is going through that's very negative, if they're going through something that's very negative, it may be that it's part of their life plan.
yes, but if you throw the healing back on them, self-healing, then they're totally responsible for their own karma. If they want to heal themselves, it's their karma. But if I do that, I'm interfering with their karma. And I give you an example. I was in India and I was talking to this guru, and he tells me the story in this village where this guru, very respected, everybody loved this guy. And there was this drunk in the town nobody liked. And he goes to the guru and he goes, Guru, I got whatever disease it was. I don't know, cancer or something. He was going to die in a few months, in 6 months, I think it was. And he says, you make me a devotee and I'm going to give you all this money. I will help work for you. I will turn my life around. I will bring you people, followers. And he begs this guru, and the guru goes, okay. So he heals the guy. Well, he's supposed to be dead in 6 months, right? 9 months go by, and the guru has these grieving people come to his ashram, angry at him because that guy went and got drunk, and a drunken driving, down the road, he smashed into this guy's family and killed his wife and his children. And this guy's coming in and saying, that's on you. You'd been dead 6 months ago, but you gave him extra life. And so therefore, that is your karma. And the guru admitted, yes, that's my karma as well. So you got to really be careful when you do something, because you're actually taking on karma. So healing people is, you better know what you're doing. There's wisdom, there has to be some wisdom and responsibility. So, but I've given this speech, David was there, when we were in Bavaria. We had a 3-day retreat, and we had these people there for the 3rd day. And this German lady came in and she was crying because she was on the phone trying to talk to her sister. It's an older lady. And she comes in all crying because when she tried to talk to her sister was in so much pain, sister couldn't talk to her. She was dying. She was terminal and she was dying of some disease and everything. And she wanted to know if we could, do something for her remotely. And so I said, there's no such thing as remote. Everything is here and now. There's nothing outside of now. So, but we will send her love. I said, we're not in charge of when she dies, but we can do something for her pain and suffering. And so we had the whole group. David, you remember that, right? Yeah. And I said, we sent these ohms, these chants of ohms, and we sent love, we visualized it. And this whole group sent, there was about 50, 80, I don't know, 60, 70 people. I don't know. It's a good sized amount of people at this hotel. And we sent this lady this love. Lady did not know that we were praying for her. So at lunchtime, the original woman that reported about her sister comes back all happy. She called during lunch break, talked to her sister. Her sister was having no pain. In fact, the pain went away exactly when we sent her love and when we sent her a healing prayer and a healing chant. Her pain went away. She was totally comfortable. But it wasn't a power suggestion because she did not know. So I keep telling people it's all about self-healing. You're part of the process, right? But there was a case that just disproved everything I've ever preached, because I was telling people, well, you got to be a part of this thing. But no, she wasn't a part of it at all. And that's not the first. We've been doing it at other workshops, and we have many more examples of the same exact thing. People not there, not aware we're praying for them. And yet we did this in Southern California in Santa Anita, church there. The minister asked us to pray for this lady that was in a coma and, going to die or something. We sent her a prayer. 3 days later, she was out of the coma. She was feeding herself, and she was on the road to recovery. Now, when I talk about energy, something happened at that event in Santa Anita. When I was doing hands-on with people, this table was a round table, and the people were sitting about a foot back from the table, so nobody was touching with their hands or feet. And yet when I was doing this lady, every time I applied energy to her, her bottle of water was splashing like a spraying all over the place, right? And I stopped, flat, right? So this minister was there, can't remember her name. She saw that, And I said, you see that? She goes, I said, now watch, I'll do that again. And then it went again, right? No hands, no feet. Same thing happened. I got a video, but I didn't get a video of it happening. But where I talk about, I was counseling a veteran, and I was in a restaurant, and there was a glass of water between me and him. In the middle of the table. It's about 1.5 feet from me, big glass. And when I was sending him energy, and I just went like, I was just talking to him, I just kind of go like that, just talking, but in my mind sending him energy as I'm talking, healing energy. The glass exploded. The water came up about 12 inches, a full foot above the rim of the glass, like a geyser, and and they all saw it, right? And I'm going, okay. So energy moves fluids, it moves water. In case you wonder about the power of energy in words, like that Japanese scientist, that freezes water into crystals, Emoto, Dr. Emoto, who I met, spent a week with, nice guy. But he found that the word for love, no matter what language it is, affected the crystals. The shape of the crystals would be these beautiful things. But the word hate or anger or some cuss word, you get this real ugly stuff come out. Just water. But think about your body. Your body's what, 70%, 60, 70, I don't know whatever the percentage is. It's mostly water. And yet people put tattoos all over their body, harmlessly thinking they're not going to do anything. And they write, born to raise hell, or loser, or whatever they want to write on there. That's affecting the very water molecules of their cells. Now, if they want to put on their love or Jesus or something, whole different thing. So be very careful what you label yourself, meaning that literally label yourself, including when you say, I am, followed by whatever word you want. I am love, I am peace, or you can say, I am stupid, I am sick. The power of those words creates energy and frequency in you. So be mindful of what you say, what you write, what you sing, and what you listen to. It all affects the energy. So if you want to listen to nothing but rap music, gangster rap music all day long, that's changing your whole cellular structure. I'm not saying it's right, evil, good, bad, whatever. No judgment on values here. Just telling you about energy, what it's doing to those cells. So when you're around things that create energy, like that in your ear or in your pocket, or guys put it in their front pocket, that's energy going into your body, into your system. You're walking under high power lines. You got Wi-Fi, you got all these things which I'm exposed to, you're exposed to, right? Be really careful. Be really, really careful. All these things affect your physical self and your emotional self. But your thoughts and your words and your deeds affect your spiritual self. So that's the most important thing. So yeah, I'm out there recruiting people and looking for people that can do this, but they have to have the wisdom to know hands off, hands on. There's a time and a place for everything. But relieving any work that relieves people's emotional garbage, if you're the what I call garbage collectors of the world, where you help people clean the clutter and the garbage out of their head, more power to you. Carry on, because people are at that level. Everybody at that level, they need it, right? Some more so than others. So that's not wasted. Just be really careful that when you're taking out the garbage, you're not taking on some of that garbage. It's very dangerous.
I was fascinated by this, what you told us regarding your dog when you were very young, being run over. The poor animal was almost dead, and you were able to sort of, with all your meditation and your energy and your confidence that it would heal the dog. Was the dog perfectly fine, and did it live?
Yeah, went years. Now, I I was in India 2000, which I think many times, but I think it was 2004. And I was crossing the Ganges River. And of course, when you cross the Ganges River on a road, this traffic jam because everybody gets out and they take their water jugs, everybody goes down and gets water from the Ganges and all that, so it's a big traffic jam. And so I'm looking at this guy ahead of me, and he's riding in the back of a trailer, vegetable trailer. It's got sugar beets. He's sitting on the top of this thing about 10 feet in the air. It's being pulled by a tractor. It's an old guy. Anyway, so in this traffic jam, somebody trying to pass, this bus comes over and hits this guy, jackknifes the thing. The guy flies off the top of this truck, and he lands on the asphalt. He makes a slapping sound like that with the back of his head. Just like my dog sounded, just reminded me of the time, it's just like my dog sound, right, getting hit. And he's laying there, and I get out, and he's not breathing. There's no pulse. His eyes are he's not seeing anything. He's not doing anything. He's just blank. And he's bleeding through the ears, through the mouth, through the nose, and through the eyes, just like the dog. And I thought, yeah, what's the difference between a dog and a person? Dog spelled backwards is G-O-D, God, right? So, hey, come on, let's take care of this guy, right? So I used the same technique I used on the dog. The energy coming down. He was totally unconscious. People tell me, hey, leave him alone, he's dead. And this crowd of people, Indians, leave him alone, he's dead. And I'm holding his hands gently, and I got a bottle of water, and I'm washing his face, and I'm really tender with him, and I'm just giving him love. I didn't want to give him mouth to mouth or some crazy thing because this guy looked like he was sick too. He was dirty and kind of scuzzy, and HIV was big in the area. And I don't want to get too crazy with this, but it was me giving him love emotionally and spiritually, and then hands on his skull and just his head, and then boom, wakes up, comes out of his temporary coma, unconsciousness, and he was okay. But I felt it was okay. I followed my love. My love said, do it. It was a green light. So there's times in my life where I know it's gone. I got a stupid story. That's one I tell in churches, which is not a stupid story, but it's just a really simple story that I save for my audiences when I'm in a church, because they always love it. Oh, it's a good story because they all relate to it. It's like there's a river that comes down from Lake Tahoe, where I live in California. Lake Tahoe comes down towards Sacramento. It's called the American River. There's an interesting name for a river in America, right? The American River. Oh, it goes through Sacramento. All right, in case you're wondering where it's at. It's in America. It's California. So I'm rafting. I've only been rafting twice in my life. This was the last time. This is about 30, 40 years ago. And we pull over on this beach when we're rafting right after the rapids. And I see all these people down at the end of the beach, all these young people standing around. I see them dragging a body of this young guy out of the water. So I run down the end of the beach because I'm a trained lifeguard. I did that my last year in the Army. I know all the stuff to do. So I run down there, and everybody's just standing there, and this body's laying there, and they go, oh, he's dead. Well, no, he's not breathing. There is no pulse. There's no nothing. And he's gray. And I asked how long he was under, and they go, well, we looked for him for 9 minutes, but he could have been gone 15 or 20 minutes. We have no idea. So, but the water was cold. I remember I was thinking the water was cold. It's coming down from melting snow, right? So I figured, being a lifeguard, I figured, when you're a lifeguard, you got a rule. You start CPR, you start mouth to mouth. You don't quit until a professional comes and says he's dead. So once you start, you go forever. So I get this guy, and I'm going, and people kept saying, he's dead. And I just keep going. I'm giving mouth to mouth. And finally, he explodes, in the water, and barf and everything comes out. And he stands up as a 17-year-old boy. So I'm looking at all his friends, and he's got this girl, California surfer type, right? Blonde hair, like Gidget, right? And she's standing there and just watching. And I said, what's wrong with you? I said, you and all your friends are all teenagers. I said, all you've done is nothing. You just stand around looking at the beach. She says, oh no, mister, we were doing something. I said, what were you doing? She says, we were praying to Jesus to send somebody who knew how to save our friend. And you came. And I go, what? 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 I didn't know what to say, right? I go, what? She says, and you came. So anyway, that's my church story. But
got some, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing it. We do have some other questions as well. Why do you think, oops, just skip down the page 1 second here. Why do you think there's so much disease in the Western world, cancer and inflammation, etc.?
Besides some are obvious, of course. I mean, when I was growing up, I guess it's a long time ago, but in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, there was, like, you had a school of 2,000 kids in a school. You had one fat guy and one fat girl. Everybody knows who they were. Now I go to a school, it's 50% of the school is fat. So it's like, what? And I'm not talking fat, I'm talking obese. And it's not just America, it's Canada, it's, I don't know if Germany maybe so much, but it's all over the place. People are eating the wrong foods. It's like, I went into a store, and you've probably seen a little thing on this the other day, because I had to laugh when I saw a video of it, where the guys had going to Congress, and he asked Congress, they're talking about health food and stuff. And he says, well, Congressman, he says, these stores, the congressman says, well, we got stores, they got a health food section, you know. And he says, well, if the store has a health food section, what do you call the rest of the store? It's just like, what, you know? So we're eating ourselves, but what really is eating us up is it's hate. The red states hate the blue states. Conservatives hate liberals. This guy hates this guy. I'm right, you're wrong. You're going to do it my way. My way is the only way. I'm making judgments for you. You got to believe the way I believe. That is making this whole country sick. And then you got to look at the fact that this country has karma, just like people have karma. Germany has karma. We have karma. Everybody's got karma. We as a nation, we killed American natives. We killed millions of them. We took their property. We killed all the buffalo practically. We enslaved people and brought them over here. We even enslaved Irish coming from Ireland. People don't realize there was slaves, Irish slaves. I don't know if people know that or not. So there was then we were not necessarily always the good guy in every war. We've done some things, you know, that are questionable. So you got to say, is a lot of what's happening to America karma? And I'm telling you, absolutely everything that's happening to America is karma. We have this beautiful dream, and we could save the world, and we can do a lot of good things. But we got to stop hating each other. We got to start embracing each other. And we got to stop judging each other. So if nothing else, this election day, I'm telling people, go vote. That makes you happy. Go vote. You know, but don't invest your whole life in the results. Like this is going to make you totally crazy angry where you want to kill somebody. And, you know, because 50% of this country is going to lose and 50% of this country is going to win. But the country loses no matter who wins because it's half and half. You can't do that. So, yeah. So why is there disease? Self-hate, self-anger, and it spreads to neighbors and enemies and everything else. Diet, it all goes hand in hand. So yeah, it's in cancer. You want something that really grows cancer? Anger, hatred.
Yeah.
Feeds the cancer.
Absolutely. I think Anita Morjani talks about her cancer when she was in a coma and met her father as something that she, and this is a little controversial, but she brought on herself in the sense that she wasn't being who she truly was. She was being a people pleaser and was constantly.
Oh, let's talk about you get, because that's the subject of one of my next books coming up in 2025. People pleasing. I found people pleasing, the need to be liked, one of the most crippling social, spiritual diseases of this planet. And it's taken me this long to realize that because it's insidious. Think, well, I'm a good guy, please everybody, and you always apologize. Your friendship's worth everything. You'll bend over backwards to save a friendship. And if you got to bend over backwards to save a friendship, that's not a friend. That's somebody that's using you. I'm sorry. A friend would just say, yeah, it's okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's okay. Forget it. Don't have to say anything. Yeah. But a not friend would make you feel shame and guilt and take the apology and keep you going, right? So being a people pleaser is a killer. And there's not one of us that are doing spiritual work that hasn't fallen into that at some level. It's degrees, not whether it's all in or all out. There's degrees of that, because I admit to it myself. Nobody wants to be not liked. And I'm just like, my God, somebody didn't like my book and they posted something on Amazon and they didn't even read my book and they're saying something bad about it. It's like, what? So people have a hard time with that. You can't get 100% of the people to like you. Here's an example I was given, which kind of woke me up. They go, well, you're doing all this work, Bill. And yeah, I said, but I don't get thank yous all the time. I'm doing all this stuff and I'm lucky to get, a few. And the guy goes, think about Jesus. And I go, what do you mean? He says he goes out and he kills blindness. He takes this blindness and 10 blind guys, they can see, right? They come to him and he gets rid of it. 9 of them walk away. 1 stops to say, thank you, Jesus, for taking away my blindness. 1, that's 10% of the people he cured said thank you. And if Jesus is only batting 10%, well, 1% would be a big deal for me. So I'm thinking if I get 1 person out of 100, I'm good. So
I loved when you told us about what happened when you were in Vietnam with the priest and the children, and how you followed your instincts regardless of the consequences. And of course, you must have been very, very credible that the gunner, or whoever you call the other gentleman who was with you, who was then
he was a hero.
But I mean, you must have had so much credibility that he deferred to you essentially and put himself on the line. But I wonder if the visions that you were having as an 8-year-old child during that year that you had your near-death experience and were in a hospital and were doing your own meditations and kind of finding your own journey that was then validated later on. I wonder if that was all part of your journey in order to save these lives, because you knew. You'd seen so many things, I think, by then that had come true, that you knew that your instincts were correct. And as you said in your own words, I mean, that changed history for all of those families, and so on and so on and so on, because of that ripple effect, right?
Yeah, no, think about this, because I'm in Vietnam. You have to volunteer. I mean, this is crazy, right? Vietnam, it's a war, right? People are shooting at you. But to get in a helicopter, which is considered most dangerous duty, you have to volunteer to fly, be a crew member. I don't know if people know that or not. You get paid extra $70 a month. Ooh, $70. Anyway, you get paid extras, like jumping out of an airplane, you get paid extra money. It's considered hazardous duty pay over being in combat. So I could have sat back and had a lesser job. I knew I had to be in that helicopter. I knew I had to volunteer. I knew I had to be out there. I had to be there to stop that. And I thought that same thing you did, that everything has led me to this place. That's one major place that I can look back upon and say, I changed things. That changed world history, because it would have been a bad story. I mean, you've been reading about, you read about my lie, right? So it's like, no. This was a big deal, and I risked everything. Not many people, I've asked this in audiences when I've told that story. I said, let me see, raise your hands. How many of you would have said, okay, I'll do it after being threatened with be a firing squad or life in jail? How many people actually continue not to do it? I never seen a hand. Because at 21 years old, you got your whole life ahead of you. People go, well, it's not my fault. He's taking responsibility. No.
Well, On that subject of trusting your instincts, we have another question. When you're healing someone, are you interfering with their karma? Do you have, do you have a red light, a green light? Do you know if
Absolutely 100% on that question. It's all red. There is no analysis going on. It's either red or green. It's red light or green light. I don't fool around much. I trust 100% my instincts. It's like it's flash. It's no, got to do this. So people confuse me when they give me a lot of facts and data. Well, we got to figure out what we want to do for this program. Look, I don't have a program. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do at this workshop. I make it up as I go along. I've never outlined nothing. I don't have any cards. I don't have any script. That's the way I run my life, because every group has got a different energy. So everything I do is based on that. And so when it comes to healing, first off, I always try to credit all healing to the individual. That's why I label everything self-healing, self-forgiveness. I want them to believe in themselves, because I'm not going to be around forever. So when I put the hands on, basically I'm charging their frequency. I'm changing their frequency. I'm upgrading them, but they're going to have to use their own energy. And then I have to admit that there's times where it's me or the source, but I don't advertise that, and I don't want that people to think that. Now that I've said, can you edit that out? But it's like, no, it's not why you're doing this. It's not. When you start thinking you are the healer, you never are. It's always the source. So it's but there's times where my love for somebody, just the fact that I love them, makes the healing work, whether they don't have enough faith or not. So I can overcome their lack. I have enough, there's enough frequency coming from me to take care of that. But I like them to be participating in this process. And when I leave, I want them to start developing their own. And again, it's about spiritual healing. So everybody comes to my workshop. Physically, a lot of people are changed. Emotionally, a lot of people are changed. But spiritually, there's not a soul that leaves there that hasn't had a frequency change at some level. And that's where I put my energy at. That's where I put my focus at. The rest is peripheral damage, or in this case, peripheral gifts. If they get a physical healing, great. I'm just looking for the spiritual. That's the only thing they're going to take with them.
We have a question from Mina. How do I know, recognize if I'm on the right path in my life?
The right path? Every day when you get up, because you don't know. Every day when you get up, what I used to do, Lord, use me. Where do you want me today? Who do you want me to talk to? Who do you want me to listen to? Give me the wisdom and the knowledge I need to follow your will. And then just as the day goes by, trust, put your faith in, you're carrying out the will. Well, it's like when Schultz was visiting me, came from Germany, stayed at my house. I said, we were going to go to San Francisco the next day for a lunch. It's going to be a lunch this afternoon, right? I said, no, we got to go. We got to be at the Golden Gate Bridge before 8 o'clock in the morning. He goes, yeah, but the lunch is not till later in the day, right? I said, no, we got to be at the bridge at 8 o'clock. So we're about 90 minutes away, I think, or something. So we get in the car and I'm driving. We get there about 10 minutes to 8. And David's been with me. He's like the door gunner on the other side. He trusts me, right? Oh, okay, you got to be here. You got to be here. He goes along for the ride, right? So we get there and we're looking at the bridge. I want somebody to take a picture of me and David standing next to the bridge. There was this guy in his, 50s maybe. And I said, sir, can you take a picture of me and my friend here at the bridge, right? So he takes a picture, and then I start talking to him and find out that, ask him why he's there at that hour. Turns out his daughter had terminal cancer, and he's a staunch Catholic, been raised Catholic all his life. And he was upset and he was crying and everything because he was up from Southern California to visit her. She lived in Mill Valley, an apartment, which is right by the Golden Gate Bridge there. And he was upset because she wasn't practicing Catholicism anymore. She was claiming to be spiritual. And he didn't understand that, like, oh, she's going to go to hell. She's going to die and go to hell. That was his whole thing. She's going to die and go to hell. And I'm a bad Catholic because I didn't raise her right. And so he had all these things. So I spent the next hour or so talking about the power of spirituality and how it's not in conflict with what he believed, and that nobody's going to hell, and that he needed his daughter to support him. And the fact that he got up that morning and drove 15 miles to the bridge, and not knowing why he drove to the bridge, because he just went out for a cup of coffee, then drove to the bridge, got out of his car and standing there with us looking at the bridge. Well, that's why he was there, to meet me, because I basically gave him this whole talk on spirituality and how he needed to be supportive and loving for his daughter, and how she needed him now, most especially not being judged. She's going to hell. He left. I don't know, David, he was pretty uplifted when he left it. He was like the weight of the world was off his shoulder. I got that in my next book, by the way. That's one of my stories. And so the question was purpose. Well, every day has a purpose. That day, I had to be there for this person waiting for me. Had I been 15 minutes later, he'd been gone, we would have missed. Had I not listened to that inner voice, I wouldn't have went at all. But he needed it. But see, I listened to my voice, and when you listen to your voice often enough, it doesn't have to be a loud voice. It's a soft whisper, just a whisper. You know, I don't argue. Well, why are you doing this? I'm just doing this. Because sometimes I'll get up and I'm getting ready to go someplace early, and then I'm going, no, I'm going to have a cup of hot chocolate. I'm going to wait 5 minutes. Why? I don't know. I'm just going to wait 5 minutes. I have no idea if that changed anything, but I'll tell you what, one time I was doing a radio interview, a woman in Chicago, this beautiful friend of mine. She was a radio announcer at the time. Holly Campbell, I think is her name. And she had a show, AM show. And boom, boom, boom. And I did an interview with her. And then she got through with the show, and she called me back, telling me about all the neat stuff that happened and everything. And she's talking, well, I got to get in my car. I got to drive. I said, wait a minute. And I kept delaying her. She says, look, you've already delayed me 8, 9, 10 minutes here. I got to get going. I said, how long has it been? She goes, about 8 or 9, 10 minutes. I said, okay, you can go. Click. She gets in her car, and she finds out she drives the Chicago, the loop, what they call the loop, it's a big freeway. And she just missed an accident by about 7 or 8 minutes. Big, huge collision. And all this traffic was all jammed up and everything. So she just missed it. Had she left on time, she'd been in the middle of this accident. So sometimes you just have to listen to the voice. And the people that hang around me, if they hang around me long enough, all I got to do is say, I think or I feel. And I don't have to do this big talk. They just, okay. So my wife gave up a long time ago trying to analyze me. Okay, great. You had a dream. Okay, go do what you got to do. But that's what it's about. But having a purpose in life is important. If you wake up with no purpose, and you retire and you have no purpose, you have no life.
I would
days of nothing.
Right. I was going to just add to that is what I'm beginning to understand from my reading, etc., is that following your highest excitement is a clue to what your life purpose is to some extent, because you're bringing into this plane, bringing into fruition some of the gifts that you've been given. And a lot of those, if they can be used for the greater good, therein lies, the path, as it were. So I would say it's inside you, you just have to trust and uncover what that is. But following, what gives you joy, what makes you happy, what excites you is a clue. Is a clue. We've got
And honestly, that's subjective, because I've had custodians working for me when I was in management of the post office, and happiest guy I've ever had. This guy was just, no matter what happened, he loved his job. He did a good job. You could tell when he was on the job, it was done with love. Yeah. So it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And all service done with love is done for God. So if everything you do is for God, then everything you do is like a puja, like a mass, like a spiritual visit to the altar. You're going to work, you're going to the altar, you're going to the church. You're not working for your boss, the man or the woman. You're working for the divine. And so if you set your scopes a little bit higher and you look at your customers, service to them is servicing God. You're servicing the God in them. And if you do that, then all your work is blessed and you'll find joy.
Indeed.
I don't care what you're doing. It doesn't matter. It's not, you see these graduation speeches from universities and all these actors get up there and they go find passion and do that job with passion that you really love doing, and then move where you love living, and and all that stuff. And I'm going, no, because they all want to be podcasters and they all want to be on the internet and they all want to, no. Love who you're with. Love who you are. Love where you're at and love what you do. It doesn't matter. And when you want to do something else, don't leave because you hate this. Go because you love that one more. I love getting more money at that job. Not I hate this thing, right? So it's all about attitude. So when you want to find your purpose in life, wake up. Literally wake up and look around your immediate environment. Loving a pet, that is something. It's beneficial. Trust me, the animal benefits from it. Growing a garden and giving away your vegetables to your neighbors, that's a beautiful thing. Small stuff, going to the grocery store, being kind to the cashier, not flipping somebody off in traffic and waving somebody, let them go ahead of you. I mean, all these things accumulate in a greater sense of community and harmony. And that's what you want to be a part of. Your purpose in life is to love and to serve. And it doesn't matter if you're serving being a mother or serving being a counselor, a custodian, CEO, it doesn't matter. Wherever you're at, serve at that level. Give from the heart.
We're out of time and we have a couple more questions, so I do want to fit them in. David, you've raised your hand. We're going to unmute you and please go ahead and ask your question.
Actually, it's less a question and more of a comment. So just for the others that might not know Bill for such a long time as I do, almost 15 years now, don't let yourself get confused by all his words. The Irishman likes telling stories and stories, and even a little bit of Italian blood is flowing through his veins. So it's a lot of love that is flowing here. And what you need to realize is Bill put a lot of time in spiritual sadhana in this life and in his past lives, and therefore he's on a level of frequency and of energy that makes these things that he did or that were done through him possible. And this is something that we need to keep in mind. There should not be any shortcuts. Sometimes it's meant to happen that some healing takes place for somebody. But I think usually these healings take place to give a good example, to show people that it's possible, to show possibilities in life, to show that there is love, but not for the healing itself to happen. This is not what it's all about. And I think the same is true for Jesus. He didn't heal the blind or the ill to heal them, but to show how much God loves people. So I think if we take away something from those who are far ahead of us, like Bill is, then is invest some time and effort in raising your own frequency and energy by all these different methods that are there out there: meditate, serve, love, etc. But there are some that work quicker and some are less effective. So Bill did a lot of yoga meditation in his young life, in his young years, and he has been, what he got from that intense meditation are these cities, these possibilities to feel things, to see things, to maybe even create two different bodies and help people with one body while the other one is sleeping right next to his wife in his bed. So these things are only possible if you reach a certain level. And I had the opportunity to do a hands-on on Bill in our workshop that we did together in Germany. And I can assure you that that's a couple of years ago. So I can definitely.
How much older I looked there 15 years ago?
He's looking younger now, and I'm looking older. So that's how life is. But so yeah, when I touched Bill, and this is this hands-on healing, you touch the head with your hands, and I have done a little bit of meditation, and I could feel his Kundalini energy in his spine. It was intense. So don't underestimate this man. He's a man of very many words, but first of all, he's a man of love and action. He's doing the things and not only talking about them.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's wonderful. Carol, you had your hand up. Would you still like to ask a question, make a comment?
Hi, everybody. This has been so enjoyable. Thank you, Rev Bill, for taking the time out to do this, such a small group. Just what you spoke about right near the end, Bill, has been so helpful. And David, what you said, because, my life is pretty simple, and I've been walking a spiritual path since I was 16. So I've managed to, know that if it's not happening out there, why is it happening inside? Why am I making myself crazy in my head if it's not out there crazy? So I've been doing inner work for years, and I probably, started meditating. I think it was about 8 years ago. I do in the morning about 15 minutes, and the afternoon about 15 minutes, get real quiet and listen and breathe and, and just watch my thoughts. But I've never been one to I've done yoga over the years, nothing deep. Didn't learn about the chakras until, I know which chakras they are and somewhat how they would affect me. But so I guess my question is for advice as far as I can get real quiet and watch my thoughts and forgive myself if, or if I feel pain in my body, I can be with that and don't transmute it, like you might say, Bill, be with it and love it, like you so wonderfully, teach us to do, to be as present as I can with what's happening and forgive myself for what seems like lifetimes of ego-driven, as a being. Maybe that's all I'm meant to do in this lifetime. I don't know. And I'm doing like what you suggest, what's right in front of you every day. But I almost feel like there's almost like a dark night of the soul, where you get to a point where in order to go deeper, it's kind of scary. Maybe I'm holding myself back from really letting go, really going deep. I've had a couple moments in my life where I felt the presence of God and that light and love. But it's not present, in my everyday surroundings. My life's not crazy, but I guess that's it. I'm like, am I missing a piece of the puzzle, or just keep walking?
Let's get real. Life is not easy. It's not easy to be an Earth girl, Carol. This is not an angelic experience. People don't believe in hell. Come to Earth. You'll believe in hell. You're there, right? So this is a journey of tears, pain, suffering, unfortunately. And so when you go against the current, you're the fish that decides to swim upstream to find the source of the river. That's what you're trying to do. It's a little bit more effort. Everybody can flow downstream. You want to swim upstream. And in the process, you start to examine your life and you examine your things. But if you're trying to get yourself to that perfect spot where your mind is, peaceful, stop trying. Just be. It's enough. Just be. Don't argue with yourself. Sometimes I watch people and they meditate. They're doing Kriya Yoga, for example. Kriya Yoga, for example, is it's supposed to be one of the highest forms of yoga that you could do meditation. I've seen people do it 35 years, 40 years. I haven't seen any changes in their life. It's such a great technique. And then I see people that, boom, one time they're out. Well, that's me anyway. But other people, it's not how many repetitions you do of some meditation. It's not having the highest, best one. It's all about love. Because I've reached samadhi practicing Om technique, Aung technique, real simple, easy techniques. Well, I remember, boom, a few breaths, boom, you're out of it, right? And these guys, I did 400 and some these mantras. I go, you remember them all? Yeah. You weren't even there then. It's like you were focused on the doing and never being the love experience of God. So whatever meditation technique you use, infuse it with the power of your love. So it's just loving God. If everything else goes wrong, just close your eyes and I love you, God. Most powerful mantra there is. I love you. Meaning I love yourself. I love God. I love my neighbor. I love just love. I love. That's the most highest frequency mantra you got. And of course, there's Tibetan ones. There's Nath yoga ones. There's all these all these great, and people retreat. I watch people, especially Westerners, repeating all these mantras in other languages. They have no clue what they mean. Somebody tells them the words they have no understanding of. And if you mispronounce them, you change the meaning and the vibration of them if you're not pronouncing them correctly. Real danger. Whatever language you got, pray in that language. Trust me, God is multilingual, understands you. But love in all languages has the same frequency. I love you, God. I love you, Jesus. I love you, Buddha. I love you, Babaji. Doesn't matter. I love you, Krishna. I love you, Muhammad. Doesn't matter. It's only one. Just one. And it's us. People in America kind of get me crazy because it's like, what pronoun do you go by? He, she, me, him. I go, what? What pronoun? If I had one pronoun, it would be us. There's just us. How's that for a pronoun? Us. There's only one, right? So, Carol, I understand where you're coming from, and there's frustrated people out there, but only the people are frustrated are the people that want to change. So that's the good news. If you're frustrated, good. That's the first major hurdle. Because if you're feeling good with the status quo, which is not so great out there right now, well, then something's wrong. That's like, if you had a child die and you didn't shed a tear, I'd say something's wrong with you. I don't care how more spiritual you are. You even cry for a dog when it dies, right? So it's okay. It's very much okay. Question everything. But in the end, just love. What's your purpose today? Just to love. How many people can I love today? It's up to you. Everybody you meet, hopefully. In Ireland, the Irish got this old custom. When you're walking through the village trail someplace, and you pass, oh, there's McDonald. Hey, there's O'Brien. There's McDonald. Right? And these people walk by you. It's like you say something to them, top of the morning or something. You give them something. And if you don't know them, there's, the tip of the hat or something. But you always give them something. And even if it's like in your heart, you just go, God bless them, bless them, bless them. Never pass anybody that you don't bless with a good thought. Unless you're in a mob of people, a football game or something crazy. But, I'm talking about, when people come into your life, you should gift them something. And if it's just you saying, Lord bless them. Nobody has to hear it. Nobody has to know it. It's all a heart thing. You get in the habit of doing that, then you saturated your life with this frequency of love all around you. When you change the situations that you're facing. Not so much dramatically, but you changed how you deal with it. So in essence, it's not that serious for you anymore because now you can live or die with it. It's not a big deal, right? So respond to love, give love, share love. In the end, it's not who loved you, because that could be influenced by gifts, by fame, celebrity. Everybody loves the celebrities. Who did you love? And did you love only those people that loved you? Or did you love those that didn't love you? Did you love those that needed it in spite of the way they treated you? And loving people doesn't mean you have to even tell them you love them. It's nonverbal.
It sounds like the teachings of Jesus, actually, doesn't it? What you just said. Absolutely. You're echoing just that. It's wonderful. We have run over quite a bit. I do want to say something before I give this over to David. I need you to be very brief, if you would, please, David. I just want to bring to everybody's attention that I did actually put Reverend McDonald's email, huey576@gmail.com, in the chat, and www.reverendbillmcdonald.com, so everybody can reach out to him. David, would you like to say some final words?
Yeah, just one message to Carol. It is said that if you intensely meditate, each time you reach a certain state, then a part of your ego dies, and that might be something that you feel, this kind of something that holds you back from going further in your meditation and in your spiritual practice. So actually, it's a good sign to feel that, and just go ahead. You can transcend this state of fear. And second thing is, and that is one couple of sentences of advice to all of those listening. Between the words and beyond the words, Bill has been transmitting loving energy to your heart chakras during the whole workshop, and I'm pretty sure he will be doing that for a couple of minutes more afterwards. So open your hearts, be receptive to that energy, because that is the healing frequency that you can receive here through all these words and explanations. The essence of the workshop is this transmission.
Very good. Well, Reverend McDonald, I want to thank you so very much. It's been an absolutely fascinating couple of hours here with you this afternoon. Thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing and everything that you're bringing into the world, because you're definitely touching many, 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 many souls. And I knew that about you when I first saw you speak in person in 2019, and you've just confirmed it even more this afternoon. I will be in touch with you for sure. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, from those of you who are halfway across the world and those of you who are more local. Thank you. Did you want to say just a couple of quick last words?
In the end, the only thing that matters is love. It's the only thing that's real.
Absolutely.
It's the only thing to be remembered for. Love.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we love you very much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye now. Bye, everyone.